Everything you've ever believed about heaven, everything you've imagined about the afterlife, might be wrong. That's the shocking truth I discovered when I died. Heaven is not a dull, cloud-filled paradise with endless harp music, nor is it some distant, untouchable place that exists only in vague promises. What I experienced completely shattered the conventional ideas of what heaven truly is. What I learned in my near-death experience shook me to the core. Jesus revealed truths about what we'll actually be doing in heaven, activities that are so thrilling, so alive, that they changed everything I thought I knew about the afterlife. It all started when I died unexpectedly. I was living a life full of contradictions. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in anything supernatural. I thought religion was just something people made up to comfort themselves. And honestly, I was proud of the life I had built, a successful career, a tight-knit group of friends, and a life that seemed complete. But all of that came crashing down when I passed away from a ruptured ovarian cyst, completely unexpected. As I left my body behind, I thought I was just another soul lost in oblivion. But I was wrong. What happened next will leave you speechless, because I was shown heaven itself. Let me share with you the mind-blowing truths I learned about what we'll really be doing in heaven. My name is Chloe Williams. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I grew up in a very different world from the one I encountered during my near-death experience. To put it simply, faith and spirituality were not part of my world. I wasn't raised in a religious household. My parents didn't practice any form of organized faith, and for most of my life, I saw religion as a crutch for those who needed it. I never understood why people clung to the idea of a higher power or a life after death. As I grew older, I became increasingly skeptical, and by the time I was in my 20s, I considered myself an atheist. I didn't believe in heaven, hell, or any form of spiritual existence beyond what we experience here on Earth. My relationships were based on logic, reason, and a belief in personal freedom. I loved who I loved, and that was my truth. I never thought twice about the afterlife. I was too busy living my own life. It was November 14th, 2021, a crisp, chilly evening in Denver, Colorado. The streets were alive with the hum of city life, the glow of streetlights bouncing off the wet pavement after an afternoon drizzle. I had just finished dinner at a small, trendy cafe with a few friends. We had laughed, debated politics, and discussed upcoming holiday plans. It was an ordinary night, one of those moments you take for granted, never imagining it might be your last. As I walked back to my apartment, my stomach twisted sharply. At first, I ignored it, chalking it up to something I had eaten. But with each step, the pain grew sharper, like a knife twisting inside me. I clutched my side, inhaling sharply as a wave of nausea crashed over me. I barely made it to my building. The elevator doors slid open, and I stumbled inside, pressing the button for my floor. The air inside the cabin smelled of fresh detergent, a stark contrast to the growing storm of agony in my body. My breathing grew shallow. My vision blurred. Something was terribly wrong. The elevator was nearly empty, save for an older woman in a blue coat and a young guy scrolling through his phone. Neither of them paid much attention to me. I leaned against the back wall, my body screaming in pain. Sweat slicked my forehead. As the elevator ascended, a strange sensation washed over me, a heaviness like an unseen force pressing down on my chest. The world seemed to slow. The fluorescent lights above flickered, casting eerie shadows on the steel walls. I tried to shake off the feeling, convincing myself I was just lightheaded. But then, the elevator shuddered violently. A metallic groan echoed through the confined space, as if the very walls were alive. The young man looked up from his phone, his brow furrowing. The older woman clutched the railing. Then a sudden jolt. The elevator lurched to a stop between floors. My stomach dropped, but it wasn't from the sudden halt. It was something far worse. A sharp, searing pain exploded through my abdomen. I gasped, my knees buckling beneath me. The young man rushed forward. "Are you okay?" I wanted to answer, but my throat felt like it was closing. My limbs trembled. My fingers curled into fists. My entire body was shutting down. I reached for the emergency button, but my vision swam. The older woman pressed it instead, her voice shaking as she tried to call for help. But no response came. The elevator was silent, save for the distant hum of the city outside. My breath hitched. The walls felt like they were pressing inward. My head spun. Something was happening to me. The pain reached an unbearable peak. My body convulsed. A scream lodged in my throat, but never escaped. I felt a terrifying pull, as if something inside me was being ripped away. My body collapsed against the cold elevator floor. My eyes fluttered, but the faces around me blurred. Then, everything went black. Yet I was still aware. Not in the way I had been moments ago, confined to a body, bound by pain and fear. No, this was different. I felt unshackled, as if the weight of flesh and bone had been stripped away. Then a shift. I was soaring. Not through space, not through time, but through something else entirely. A realm beyond comprehension. A place not made of air or matter, but of light, pure, brilliant, living light. I should have been terrified. I should have been overwhelmed. But instead, a strange peace wrapped itself around me, a warmth deeper than anything I had ever known. It seeped into the very core of what I was, filling me with a clarity I had never possessed in life. Was this real? A dream? Some strange trick of the mind as it flickered out like a dying candle? No. I knew, with a certainty that defied all human reasoning, that this was no hallucination. This was reality, more real than the life I had just left behind. And then I sensed him. Not with my eyes, for I had no physical form anymore. Not with my ears, for sound in this place was different. It resonated. It vibrated through the very essence of my being. But he was there. A presence so vast, so overwhelming, that the mere recognition of it should have broken me. Yet it didn't. Instead, it filled me with a love so consuming that I wanted nothing more than to lose myself in it completely. I could not see him, yet I knew this was no ordinary presence. This was not an angel, not a distant cosmic force. This was him. The one. The beginning and the end. This was Jesus. His voice wasn't a sound. It was a presence that wrapped itself around me, resonating through the very core of my existence. It was both thunder and whisper, both infinite and intimate. "Be still," he said, and in that moment, every question, every doubt, every lingering trace of fear simply vanished. I wanted to fall before him, to worship, to weep in the presence of such indescribable holiness, but I had no body with which to do so. Yet somehow he understood. "There are things you must see," he continued. "Truths hidden from the world, lies whispered through generations, binding men in fear and deception. You have been brought here to witness, to know what so many do not understand." A pause. A silence that wasn't empty, but full, pregnant with meaning, with purpose. Then he spoke again. "They do not know what awaits them in my kingdom." The weight of those words pressed against me like a tidal wave, yet they carried no burden. Instead, they carried revelation. "The enemy has filled the world with illusions," he said. "Lies about heaven, lies about eternity, lies that keep people from yearning for the truth. They have imagined my kingdom to be a place of endless idleness, of floating aimlessly among clouds, of monotonous existence. They have believed that death is an escape, an end to purpose. They do not know." A deep sorrow filled his voice. "They do not understand what I have prepared for them." I felt a shift, as if the very fabric of this realm was responding to his words. Heaven is not the absence of purpose, it is its fulfillment. It is where my children will truly begin to live. Even though I had no breath, something inside me hitched. "What will we do?" I dared to ask. A hush fell over everything. The light surrounding me shifted, as if the very fabric of existence was about to be peeled away to reveal a deeper truth. I stood in silence, my spirit trembling, not with fear, but with anticipation. I heard the Jesus voice once more. "You have been brought here to see, to understand, and to tell others what awaits those who endure." And in an instant, the world around me dissolved. A breathtaking realm unfolded before my eyes, unlike anything I had ever seen. The air shimmered as if infused with liquid gold, and the sky above me was a tapestry of colors I had no name for. It wasn't just a place, it was life itself, pulsing and vibrant, a world untainted by time or decay. Before me stretched an endless landscape of unimaginable beauty. Towering trees swayed in a breeze I couldn't feel, their leaves humming softly, as if singing praise to their creator. Rivers of light, flowing like molten crystal, carved paths through rolling meadows and gardens brimming with flowers that seemed to glow from within. Every breath I took filled me with strength, peace, and an overwhelming sense of homecoming. Then I saw it, the heart of this paradise. A garden unlike any other, untouched by sin, uncorrupted by the fall. It was Eden, no longer lost, but alive and waiting. The Jesus voice echoed all around me. What was once removed from mankind has been restored. The first act of the redeemed is to partake in the life they were always meant to have. In the very center of this garden stood a single tree, imposing yet inviting, its branches stretching high, as if embracing the heavens themselves. The tree of life. Its bark gleamed with a soft golden glow, as though light itself was woven into its fibers. The leaves, vast and lush, radiated an essence I could only describe as healing. But it was the fruit that truly mesmerized me. Each branch bore a different kind, some shining like sapphires, others glowing with a soft golden hue. It was a tree of abundance, its fruit changing with the passing of divine time, offering something new with each heavenly cycle. I heard Jesus' voice again, firm and tender. To eat from this tree is to step beyond all that was lost, to receive what was promised since the beginning. Those who overcome, those who endure to the end, shall eat freely from its branches. A breeze stirred the leaves, sending a ripple of shimmering light cascading through the garden. As the glow passed over the grass, I noticed something astonishing: people. Men, women, and even children, their faces radiant, their bodies strong and whole. Their laughter was like music, a symphony of souls who had left behind sorrow, pain, and death itself. Jesus' voice filled the air once more. In this place there is no more suffering, no more death, no more sickness or mourning. The curse of the old world is broken. The blind see, the deaf hear, the crippled leap like the deer, and the mute sing songs of praise. Tears welled in my eyes as I watched a young boy, no older than 7, stand for the first time in what must have been his life. His legs, once frail, were now strong, and as he took his first steps, his laughter echoed through the garden. His parents, weeping with joy, knelt beside him, their arms wrapped around him in an embrace so tight, it seemed as if they never wanted to let go. Jesus continued, "This is not a realm of spirits floating aimlessly. Heaven is not a place of formless existence. The redeemed will have bodies, real, perfected bodies. The world as you know it will be transformed. What was barren will flourish. What was lost will be restored." I took a step forward, drawn to the river that flowed from the base of the tree. Its water was unlike any I had ever seen, clear, yet infused with shifting colors, as though light itself danced within its currents. It wasn't just water. It was life. I knelt beside it, dipping my hands into the stream. The moment my fingers touched its surface, warmth surged through me, filling every part of my being with indescribable peace. It was as if every burden, every sorrow I had ever carried, was washed away in an instant. "This water," Jesus said, "is for the healing of the nations. What was broken will be made whole. What was divided will be united. And the presence of God will be with his people forever." As I stood by the river of life, watching its crystal waters shimmer with an otherworldly light, Jesus turned to me once more. "Look," he said, lifting his hand toward the horizon. The landscape before me transformed. The golden hues of the eternal garden stretched endlessly, yet it felt intimate, like home. I saw figures approaching, but not just any figures, faces I knew. Faces I had mourned, faces I had missed with an ache that no earthly comfort could soothe. And then I saw her, my grandmother. Her eyes, once clouded with age and life, now shone with youth and vitality. She smiled at me, not the strained smile of a weary soul, but the unrestrained joy of one who had been made whole. My heart surged with emotion. I ran to her, but she was already holding me before I could take a step. Her embrace was real, solid, warm. Every memory we had shared flooded my mind, but the pain of our earthly goodbyes was gone. There were no tears, only joy. "We were never truly apart," she whispered. "Only for a moment in time." More figures emerged. Friends, loved ones, people I hadn't seen in years. Each face carried a story, a life redeemed, a soul now basking in eternal peace. But what stunned me the most was that some of those I had assumed lost, people whose salvation I had once doubted, were here. "Heaven holds more surprises than you can imagine," Jesus said, as if hearing my thoughts. "For my mercy is greater than human understanding." Then, in the distance, I saw a gathering unlike any other. A vast assembly seated beneath the shade of towering trees, their golden leaves dancing in the soft breeze. I saw them, the ancients, the ones whose names were etched into history. Abraham, the father of nations, with a presence that radiated unwavering faith. Moses, his face still glowing faintly from his encounters with God on Sinai. David, his eyes filled with both the fire of a warrior and the heart of a worshipper. Daniel, whose wisdom and courage had defied empires. And then, a figure whose very presence made my soul tremble with awe. John the Baptist. His eyes met mine, and in them, I saw the raw passion of a man who had lived only for the coming of the Messiah. There was no regret in him, no sorrow for the price he had paid in life. Only fulfillment, only joy. "Come," Jesus said, guiding me forward. "For those who overcome will dwell in the presence of the righteous forever." Here, there are no more goodbyes. I walked among them, each moment more surreal than the last. Questions burned within me, and yet, the overwhelming peace of this place stilled my soul. I knew, somehow, that here in eternity, there would be time to learn, to speak, to understand. And then Jesus spoke again. Here, in the paradise of God, all things are restored. Families are reunited. The faithful dwell together. The story of redemption is remembered, and the wonders of the Almighty are sung forever. I turned to him, my heart overflowing. Then this truly is heaven. Jesus gestured for me to follow. As we moved forward, the shimmering light of the eternal garden gave way to a breathtaking sight, vast, golden lands stretching beyond the horizon, gleaming under a sky infused with an otherworldly glow. The landscape was alive, pulsating with the presence of God, as if the very ground was aware of his glory. Ahead, I saw towering structures rising in the distance, yet they were unlike anything I had ever seen on Earth. They weren't mere buildings, they were living, breathing creations, emanating warmth, peace, and divine craftsmanship. The closer I walked, the more I realized that they weren't built by human hands. They seemed to respond to the desires of the heart, forming into shapes and designs beyond imagination. I turned to the being in amazement. Who built these? They did, he said, nodding towards a group of radiant beings working joyfully. At first, I thought they were angels, but as I looked closer, I recognized some of their faces. Men, women, even children, all filled with the indescribable joy of creation. They weren't toiling with effort. They were shaping, forming, and crafting their own homes with just the movement of their hands, as if guided by divine knowledge. Their thoughts materialized into physical reality. No limitations. No imperfections. Only beauty. Jesus spoke again. Here, nothing is built with human struggle. The heart envisions and the heavens respond. As it is written, they will build houses and dwell in them. They will plant vineyards and eat their fruit. I watched in awe as a man shaped a magnificent archway with a mere touch, as though the very essence of his soul had woven into the design. A woman nearby molded crystalline pillars that shimmered with embedded lights, like captured stars. Each home reflected its maker, a personal masterpiece, an extension of their redeemed being. Then Jesus' voice carried a deeper revelation. Each of God's children will have two homes, one prepared by his hands in the holy city, and one built by their own design here in the paradise of God. I gasped as I realized the truth of his words. In the heart of the city, beyond the vast fields, stood a radiant kingdom, its walls alive with a glow not of this world. Within those walls lay the mansions Jesus himself had prepared. But beyond the city, in the limitless expanse of paradise, God's people were also given the gift to create. Just as Adam and Eve were first meant to tend to the garden in its original, untainted glory. Jesus' words echoed in my mind. I go to prepare a place for you. But now I saw something even greater. The fulfillment of his promise, beyond what my human mind had ever comprehended. With a sweeping gesture, Jesus turned to me and said, Here there is no lack. No one builds in vain. Each home is a reflection of the heart, a dwelling designed with eternal joy. I fell to my knees, overwhelmed by the reality before me. Then Jesus spoke again, and his words sent a new wave of revelation through my soul. Come, there is still more to see. Jesus led me deeper into the landscape of heaven, where the air itself seemed alive with joy. Every breath I took filled me with indescribable peace, as though I was inhaling the very essence of life. The sky above shimmered in hues beyond earthly imagination, and the light that bathed everything was not from a sun, but from the radiance of God himself. As we moved forward, the scenery transformed before my eyes. Fields of endless beauty stretched out, filled with trees that pulsed with life, their branches swaying as though whispering praises to their creator. Flowers of every conceivable color, and some beyond anything I had ever seen, flourished in perfect harmony. Their fragrance was not just pleasant, it carried a melody, a song that resonated deep within my soul. Then, Jesus extended his hand toward the vast expanse ahead. This, he said, is where my people will cultivate life. Before me, people of every age and background were tending to breathtaking gardens. Yet, unlike on earth, there was no struggle, no toil under a scorching sun. Each seed placed into the soil responded instantly, taking root and sprouting forth with divine energy. Vineyards stretched across the horizon, their grapes glistening like gemstones. Fruit trees, unlike any in the mortal world, bore a constant harvest, each fruit larger, more radiant, and undoubtedly more flavorful than anything I had ever tasted. Here, Jesus continued, You will plant, and you will reap without sorrow. The ground will never resist you, nor will it be cursed with thorns or decay. Every living thing will flourish under my hand. I watched in awe as a man plucked a piece of fruit from a golden leaf tree and took a bite. The expression on his face was one of pure delight, as though he had just experienced the taste of joy itself. A woman knelt beside a crystalline stream, dipping her hands into the water and sprinkling it over a patch of flowers. Immediately they shimmered and grew, blooming before her very eyes. The rivers that flow here, Jesus said, carry life from the throne of God. They nourish the roots of these trees, and their leaves bring restoration. In this place there will be no famine, no barrenness, only abundance. I marveled as I saw a young boy running through the fields, laughing as animals followed him playfully. He reached a tree and stretched out his hand. At his touch, a new branch formed, bearing a cluster of fruit before his very eyes. It was as though creation itself responded to the joy of its inhabitants. Jesus turned to me, his eyes filled with the wisdom of eternity. The dream of a land where my children live without fear, without pain, without hunger. It is not a dream here. It is reality. Here, you will know the fullness of life as it was always meant to be. My heart swelled as I took in the scene. I had never known a place where every effort bore fruit instantly, where nothing was wasted, and where joy was interwoven into every action. The very ground seemed eager to bring forth beauty, responding to the hands of those who tended it with love and expectation. Then Jesus smiled and gestured forward. Come, there is still more to see. I felt a sudden shift. The air around us shimmered, as if the very fabric of space itself was being woven anew. In an instant, I found myself standing upon a platform of crystal-clear glass, suspended in the vastness of the cosmos. Below us, the eternal Garden of Eden stretched in breathtaking splendor, yet above and around us, the heavens unfolded in an endless panorama of wonder. Before I could utter a word, I saw celestial bodies in motion, golden stars burning with living fire, nebulae swirling like vast oceans of color, entire galaxies pulsating with divine energy. The beauty was overwhelming. The night sky I had once known on Earth was nothing compared to this. Here, I could see the very breath of God moving among the stars. Jesus gestured toward the expanse, and as he spoke, his voice resonated in my spirit. You have seen the beauty of Earth, but my Father's handiwork extends far beyond what was broken by sin. Every world, every star, every galaxy exists in perfect harmony. And now you will explore it all. At that moment, I became aware that I was not alone. Around me, others stood in awe, their eyes wide with wonder. Saints from every generation, clothed in robes of light, stood on similar platforms of radiant crystal. They marveled at what lay before them, whispering praises to the Creator. Suddenly, I felt myself lifted, as though carried by an unseen force. The stars themselves seemed to draw nearer. In mere moments, I found myself standing upon the surface of a distant world, unlike anything I had ever imagined. The ground beneath me was soft and luminescent, radiating with a gentle glow. Strange but breathtaking plants towered above me, their leaves shimmering in hues of silver and gold. Rivers of liquid light coursed through the landscape, their waters humming with a melody that resonated in my very soul. This is but one of many worlds you will explore, Jesus said, his voice rich with joy. There is no limit to what my Father has created. The mysteries of the universe are yours to uncover. You will study the depths of the seas, walk among creatures no eye on earth has seen, and understand the divine order of all things. As he spoke, I saw creatures approaching, majestic and untamed, yet entirely peaceful. A great lion, its mane shimmering like woven sunlight, strode beside a wolf, its silver fur reflecting the colors of the sky. A colossal eagle, its wings spanning farther than any earthly bird, soared overhead before landing near us, its intelligent eyes fixed upon Jesus with adoration. There is no fear here, Jesus continued. No pain, no suffering. All of creation exists in perfect peace. The lion does not hunger for the lamb, nor does the serpent strike with venom. Here, every creature knows its maker, and all live in harmony. A sudden realization struck me. In heaven, knowledge was not bound by limits. I could understand the language of the wind, the whispers of the trees, and the silent songs of the stars. I could feel the very heartbeat of creation, pulsing in tune with the joy of the Lord. The adventure has only begun, Jesus said. You will walk upon worlds unseen, soar beyond the edges of human knowledge, and forever learn the wonders of my Father's universe. Eternity is not still, it moves, it grows, it thrives. And you, my beloved, will be a part of it all. Then, gradually, Jesus' appearance began to take shape as he stepped closer, and my heart pounded with anticipation. But instead of overwhelming brilliance, an eerie stillness filled the air. My breath caught in my throat as I took in his appearance. He did not shine with celestial radiance but stood as a man, just as he had on earth. A Jewish man, his features strong yet gentle, his presence commanding yet deeply familiar. But then my eyes fell upon his hands, and I staggered backward. The scars. Raw, vivid, unmistakable. The wounds in his hands and feet were not faded reminders but living marks, glowing faintly as if etched by the very power of heaven. They were not grotesque, yet they held a weight that made my heart pound, a holy contradiction of suffering and triumph. I wanted to speak, to ask, to understand, but my voice failed me. The shock of seeing him like this, stripped of his blinding majesty, yet more glorious than ever, rooted me in place. "My beloved," Jesus said, his voice filled with infinite warmth, "you were created for this union, this closeness, this life with me. From the beginning, my Father's greatest desire was to dwell with his people. From the Garden of Eden to the tabernacle in the wilderness, from the prophets who longed for the Messiah to the day I walked among men, every moment has pointed to this." As he spoke, the air around us shimmered, and suddenly, I was no longer in the garden. I saw a vast golden city, a place unlike anything I had ever known. Multitudes of people, dressed in brilliant robes, walked through streets of transparent gold. Laughter and song filled the air, a melody of perfect joy. And at the center of it all, there was a great throne, radiating a light so pure and powerful that it was beyond human description. A voice like thunder and rushing waters echoed through the city. "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with mankind. He will live with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their God." I watched as the redeemed, people from every nation and era, gathered in the city. They lifted their voices in worship, not out of duty, but out of overflowing love. Their faces shone with the purest joy, a joy that came from knowing they would never be separated from him again. Jesus turned to me, and for a moment, I could only stare in awe. How could I describe what I was seeing? No words could capture the beauty, no human language could contain the depth of joy that radiated from this place. He smiled knowingly. "Even now, what you see is only a glimpse. Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man the things my Father has prepared for those who love him." I felt tears stream down my face, not from sorrow, but from a joy so intense it was almost too much to bear. "Jesus," I whispered, this is what we were meant for." He nodded. "And soon all who have surrendered to me, all who have chosen love over darkness, will enter in and dwell with me forever. The wait will not be long. The time is near." The vision began to fade, and I felt a gentle pull, as if I was being drawn away from the eternal realm. Panic seized me. I didn't want to leave. I reached for Jesus, my heart aching at the thought of returning to the broken world I had come from. Jesus took my hands, his scarred fingers pressing into mine. "Do not be afraid," he said. "You have been given this revelation for a purpose. What you have seen, you must share." Tears blurred my vision as I nodded. "But how can I put all of this into words?" "You won't be alone." His voice was both gentle and commanding. "My spirit will go before you, preparing the hearts of those who hear. Tell them I have not forgotten them. Their breakthrough is coming at the appointed time." A new strength filled me, a certainty that this was not the end of my journey, but only the beginning. "What if they don't believe me?" I asked. Jesus smiled. "Some will doubt, some will scoff, but those who have ears to hear will know the truth. Every soul was created for this place. I have prepared a home for them here. All they must do is choose me." A wave of light surrounded me, growing brighter and brighter until I could no longer see him. And then, a sudden forceful pull yanked me backward, like I was being hurled through an invisible tunnel at unimaginable speed. The warmth of heaven, the weightlessness of my soul, the divine presence, all of it was ripped away in an instant. A sharp, suffocating pressure filled my chest. Then pain. A raw, crushing weight slammed into my body, like I had been buried under a mountain. My lungs burned as if I had been drowning, and was now gulping in air for the first time in ages. Sounds returned, muffled at first, then clearer. Voices, beeping machines, the rustle of movement. The scent of antiseptic flooded my senses. My eyes fluttered open. Fluorescent lights flickered above me. The world around me was no longer eternal, no longer glowing with the brilliance of heaven. It was cold. It was sterile. It was the hospital. I was back. A doctor's face hovered over me, his eyes wide in disbelief. "She's awake," he called out. Nurses rushed in, and I heard snippets of frantic conversation. She was unresponsive for too long. No signs of neurological damage. Her vitals are stabilizing. This shouldn't be possible. The memories crashed over me all at once. The elevator. The collapse. The darkness swallowing me whole. And then Jesus. Heaven. The visions. The shocking truths he had revealed. I had seen paradise, walked in the eternal garden, felt the presence of God himself. And now, I was back in this fragile, broken body. Tears streamed down my face, not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization that I had just glimpsed eternity and lived to tell about it. Lying in that hospital bed, surrounded by doctors who couldn't explain my survival, I knew with absolute certainty that this was no accident. No coincidence. I had been an atheist. I had spent years mocking faith, dismissing God as a fairy tale, ridiculing those who believed in a divine plan. I had built my life on logic, reason, and the tangible world. And yet, everything I had seen, everything I had experienced beyond death, was more real than anything I had ever known. Heaven was not a myth. Jesus was not a distant figure from history. He was alive. He had spoken to me. And now I know the truth. Life is not about empty pursuits, about climbing the ladder of success, about chasing after temporary happiness. Everything I had valued before seemed hollow in comparison. I had been given a second chance, not just at life, but at eternity. As I lay there, my mind replayed every word Jesus had spoken to me. The shocking truth about heaven, about what awaits those who surrender their lives to him. The endless adventure, the purpose beyond anything we can comprehend. And most of all, the scars. Jesus bore those scars for me. For all of us. I had been blind, but now I saw. I had been lost, but now I was found. I could no longer keep this to myself. I don't know why Jesus chose me to receive this revelation, but I know I cannot stay silent. If you're watching this, it's not by accident. You are being called, right now. Surrender your life to Jesus. I was stubborn, just like many of you. I thought I didn't need God. I thought I could figure life out on my own. But I was wrong. There is no life without him. No future. No hope. The truth is, every single one of us has sinned. We have turned away from God in one way or another. But Jesus, he took our punishment upon himself. His scars are proof of the price he paid, so that we could have eternity. And now he offers you a choice. Will you continue living for yourself, chasing things that will fade? Or will you surrender to him, the one who holds eternity in his hands? If you're ready to make that decision, say it out loud. Jesus, I give you my life. And if you're bold enough, declare it publicly. Type in the comments, I choose Jesus and his kingdom. For those who already believe, I urge you, remain faithful until the end. The days ahead are uncertain, and the world is growing darker. But we were never meant to fear. We were meant to stand firm, to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. If you want to continue growing in truth, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll be sharing more revelations, more truths from God's Word, and I don't want you to miss them. This is not just another video. This is your moment, your wake-up call. Choose eternity. Choose Jesus.